good teacher. So I think related to adult learning principle. So if we want to be successful in adult learning, so we have to experience. I think it is a kind of experiential learning, not only memorizing, not only understanding, not only applying, but we also have to analyzing, and then we have to synthesizing, and the last one we have to evaluate. So I think I also remember when I studied pedagogy, there is a proverb like this: I hear, I forget, and then I see, I remember, and then I do, I understand. So I think adult learning principles should include the action of the learning principle in their daily life. I think that is my opinion about adult learning principles. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Asep. This is a good experience. Okay, Bu Dini, have you?
Already, Bu.
Okay, Ananda.
Sharing share screen ya.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I believe you can all see the screen.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes,
Yeah.
we have already seen.
All right, so yeah, let's just get started. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good evening, everyone.
Yeah.
Teachers, learners, educators. It's really a pleasure. Thank you, Teti, for the opportunity. Pleasure to be here with all of you. This is an amazing community of practice. So yeah, I think Pa Asep, it's very well said. The topic today is adult learning principles, designing more engaging training for adults. And I believe since Ibu Teti, you mentioned about Peace Corps, if I may, maybe before we jump into the session content, if I may briefly share with the participants about Peace Corps program.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Of course.
Thank you. So yeah, basically, if you're new, if just first time for you to hear about Peace Corps, yeah, I just want to share briefly what is Peace Corps and what do we do. So here, as you can see on the slide, yeah, Peace Corps is an independent agency of the United States government. Yeah, so let's pause at that, meaning that Peace Corps, we're not NGO or LSM. Our organizational presence here in Indonesia is part of a strategic partnership between Indonesian and American government. We're officially operating under an MOU with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and formal implementing arrangement with Ministry of Education and Culture and Ministry of Religious Affairs. And also there stated in the second part, sending volunteers for service abroad on the basis of a partnership. So this is our core business in Peace Corps. We recruit American citizens who are interested to serve in foreign countries. We have around 65 partner countries around the world. We invite them to Indonesia. We train them to enhance their language skills, Bahasa Indonesia, and also their teaching skills through a high quality TEFL training. And then we send American volunteers to work with their English teaching counterparts, such as Ibu Teti, to teach in SMA, SMK, SMP, Aliyah, and Sanawiyah, and live with host family in their community for a period of 2 years. Unfortunately, we don't have any volunteers in Indonesia at the moment due to the pandemic, but the good news is a few other posts have started welcoming volunteers back in their countries this month. And Peace Corps Indonesia, we also in process of going through the internal approval to have volunteers returning to Indonesia, hopefully by early next year. Yeah. So if you're interested to learn more about the Peace Corps, you can check out our website, or you can also hear some wonderful stories from our former counterpart, Ibu Teti or Pak Abur, maybe, yeah? Okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh yes, Pak Abur. Assalamualaikum.
Salam Pak Nanda.
Okay.
I miss you.
Miss you too, Pak Abur. Ya. Saya lihatnya hanya virtual begini, Pak ya. Biasanya ketemu paling nggak setahun berapa kali kita.
Beberapa kali kalau lagi luring, tapi sekarang pandemi, aduh. We don't have time to meet each other in dinas pendidikan ya.
Iya. Itu Pak. Mudah-mudahan segera kondusif lagi ini.
Yap. Keep going. Monggo Pak Anda.
Ya, izin Pak Bur.
Yeah, I'm listening.
Okay. All right. So next is pretty standard. Yeah, I think you're familiar with this. Mute, turn on your video. You can use the chat box, stuff like that, and we can. I think, considering the time, we can just skip to this. Right. Okay. So yeah, again, today's topic: adult learning principles. If you happen to attend the previous session, I think with on facilitation strategies, hopefully this session can serve as a follow-up to equip us with the skills to create active and more engaging learning experience for our audience. So in this session, I'm planning to share the fundamental principles of adult learning, combined again with my own experience in designing, implementing, facilitating trainings for Peace Corps volunteers using the principles of adult learning. So I have a few objectives that hopefully we can cover for the next, 45 minutes or an hour. Hopefully by the end of the sessions, you will learn key differences between andragogy and pedagogy. We will identify key aspects of adult learning principles. You will also identify which aspects of adult learning principles that are feasible to be implemented in your own context. Yeah. So, I don't know, you might be thinking now, well, I'm not teaching adults. I'm a junior or senior high school teacher, right? So what's in it for me? Why do I have to spend my time listening to this presentation? Well, I think one for educators, there might be opportunities for you to teach, to facilitate, to design instructional materials for adults or young adults as your participants. So again, hopefully the session could be helpful for you to create an engaging and meaningful learning experience. I think another reason is by legal definition in Indonesia, children age is considered up to 17 years old, yeah, but from learning growth perspective, it can be questionable to use pedagogical approach when you're teaching teenagers, SMP or SMA students, right? So I really believe there are aspects of adult learning that are applicable for young learners, high school level students. Which ones? I think we will let you decide after this session. Yeah? Okay, so I think we can use the annotate Zoom feature, maybe to mark. I think Ibu Teti has started with the question where you are in the spectrum of understanding the adult learning principles. Kali Bapak Ibu bisa gunakan itu ya, fitur Zoom annotate-nya. Jadi mungkin on the lower numbers, 1, 2, 3, maybe if you have minimum experience with adult learners, or on the bigger numbers, di angka-angka yang lebih besar, if you have a lot of experience and feel comfortable with teaching, training, facilitating adult learners. Okay, I give people some time to annotate. Mungkin Bapak Ibu bisa di-annotate. Mungkin kalau dari handphone agak sulit ya. Okay. Right, so while waiting, I guess maybe we can give or invite anyone, 1 or 2 people to unmute and share with us, in your opinion, what are the key differences between andragogy and pedagogy? And what do you think? Which one is more challenging? Sambil menunggu yang mau share bisa di-unmute saja. Apa sih kira-kira perbedaan mendasarnya andragogy dan pedagogy, dan dalam pengalaman Bapak Ibu, in your experience, mana nih yang kira-kira lebih challenging? Okay, thank you. We have a few on the 5, on the 8.
May I share my experience?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Pak Ananda. My name is Anna. I teach computer I once teaching elementary school, and right now I teach high school, for the same subject. Well, from my experience, when I teach the elementary, we need to have more energy, more positive energy, so we can engage more with the student. And when I teach the high school, for high school students, we can teach them more about the knowledge. So, because they have more deeper understanding from the thing we explain. But for the elementary, we have to give them long introduction to make them can grasp the lesson we are going to teach them. So we need to give them more real life example. But for the high school, or I sometimes also give training for the teacher about computer. It is easier to deliver the material because they have had a better understanding about concept. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Ibu Anna. Yes, I think well said, well put. Lots of positive energy needed, lots of movements. Also, if you're teaching especially small children, and also the understanding on the importance of learning itself is usually one of the elements already for adult learners. Again, thank you for sharing, and thank you for annotating here. So yeah, there are many other similarities and differences, but in the interest of time, just going to share this 3 points, right? Pedagogy, process of teaching, particularly children. Andragogy, process of helping adults learn. And it's our job also as facilitators to help facilitate the learning process to occur effectively. Pedagogy, emphasize learning for the sake of learning. Ya, belajar karena memang harus belajar. They go to school because they have to go to school. The subjects are there. There's limited amount of freedom for children to pick and choose their subjects. Whereas for andragogy, emphasize learner motivation, connecting it to practical application, like Ibu Anna mentioned earlier. So adults needs to be responsible for their learning decisions. And last one, pedagogy, children, they come with little life experience, right? The teacher, the educator is in the center, most influential figures, and their peers also have same lack of experience. Whereas for adult learners, we use life experience as a foundation. So they learn not only from the teacher, from the instructor, but also from their peers or fellow learners. All right. So yeah, I think basically adult learning principles are concepts and theories that tells us how adults learn. Vice versa with pedagogy. So whether you're designing classroom-based, e-learning, or blended, understanding the different principles can help us design training that's more engaging and more effective, right? So it's not just designing training that's more interesting to learners, but we can also use them to actually accelerate the learning process. Jadi harapannya tidak hanya untuk mendesain proses pembelajaran yang lebih menarik dan menyenangkan, tapi juga dapat mempercepat pemahamannya dalam proses pembelajaran. Okay, so let's talk about those principles of adult learning. And again, I'm going to structure this in form of sharing definition, sharing practical examples, definition, practical examples. That. Okay, mungkin Bapak Ibu banyak yang juga yang sudah familiar dengan ini. If we talk about adult learning principles, I think most references out there will point out to this guy, Malcolm Knowles' principle of adult learning. And the first principle is this: need to know. Adults need to know the reason they're being asked to learn, right? Guess we all know as adults, kita semua orang dewasa, we have a million things to think about, right? A million things in our mind. We have family, life, harga minyak goreng, COVID, right? War, Ukraine and Russia, so many things. So learning takes effort and concentration to insert new information in our full brain. So again, we as adults, we need to know the reason why we're being asked to learn. It's like this guy, the what's in it for me, WIIFM. So again, to illustrate this, allow me to try this quick activity. I'm going to share 3 different situations. Okay, so example or situation 1, pernah nggak ini Bapak Ibu? Have you ever attended a training or a session where the session objectives were not clear or wasn't even mentioned at all? Ya, jadi datang, okay, sudah duduk, okay, langsung masuk ke materi. Ya, mungkin pernah ya. Yeah. Okay, so I think the next question in that situation, can you still learn? Can learning process still occur?
Just a little.
Yeah.
Just a little.
Yes. Maybe yes, yeah. Because you're already there, you might as well learn. But there's a gap there, right?
Yeah.
You can still learn, but it might not be effective in engaging the participants or miss the sense of meaning in their learning.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so itu contoh yang pertama yang cukup ekstrim. The second example here. Yeah. Imagine you're at the training session. The learning objectives exist. Ada. Here it is. Ada. But it mainly serves as just another page in the PowerPoint slide. It was just being read out loud for the sake of having objectives. Jadi ya tinggal dibacakan saja. Ya, okay, at the end of the course, you should be able to explain the role of the teacher and relevant legislative requirements, should be able to identify teaching and learning approaches. Hanya sekedar ada karena harus ada di halaman PowerPoint itu. Lost its meaning. And the third example, contoh yang ketiga, sama, same learning objectives, but the presenter took some time to understand the purpose of his or her session and able to share and articulate them clearly, so that the audience are convinced on the reason why they're being asked to learn. So the presenter took some time as part of their preparation to see maybe having 6 learning objectives are too much for a 1-hour session. And he or she took some time to understand the objectives so that he maybe can close his eyes and still able to describe what the session is about in his own words, maybe to a 6th grader. Ya. Jadi mungkin itu bedanya ya, tidak hanya sekedar ada saja, tapi benar-benar coba untuk memahami learning objectives-nya. So again, we can convey the objectives, the reason for learning in our own words. Yeah. Okay, so I think it's part of the presenter's role to be able to clearly share and articulate the purpose of an activity, what's in it for me, that this session or this training has a purpose that meet your needs as the audience. Okay, and I guess the question will be, na, taunya dari mana nih? How would you know what the needs are? I think there are variety of tools, that I'm sure you're familiar with. A needs assessment, survey, questionnaire to gauge the needs. Dan Bapak Ibu mungkin yang datang juga ke sesinya Bu Helena, I think one tip that she mentioned is don't just rehearse, but visualize it. So not only create the learning objectives, but again, before the session, try to visualize and convince ourselves first that the session has a clear purpose. So it's again more than just reading the objectives. If I can describe the session is about in my own words, that's one indicator that I'm ready to deliver the session. Right? So I think that's the first principle. Adults need to know the reason they're being asked to learn. Okay, questions, comments before we move to the second principle?
What about the relevance, Pak Ananda? Maybe the program will be relevant, what we need, and the materializing. It is kind of, for adults, we need the program will be relevant.
Yes, totally agree, Ibu Teti. Yes, I think that's also mentioned here. How do we know that it's meeting the needs? How do we know that it's relevant? So pre-training or pre-sessions activities such as again needs assessment, questionnaire, surveys, very important to make sure that, hey, this training that I'm designing, the session that I design is relevant and meet the needs of our audience. So you're right, it's very, very important. Thank you. Okay, so move on to the next one, this self-concept. So this is quick information. I think this is a picture from way back, I think 2010 or 2011. So we have Travis Blumling, one of our RPCVs.
Recording in progress.
And we have Bart Tannhauser, another volunteer that served in Tulung Agung at that time.
It's not that's me, nggak ada saya.
Wah, ya. Ini masih kelamaan. 2010 atau 2011 ini. Okay, so ini kok nggak mau di-click nih. Oh, masih ada announcement being recorded ya. Okay, alright. Okay, self-concept. I think that's the second principle that I'm going to share. Okay, kita aktivitas sedikit juga ya supaya nggak ngantuk nih mungkin Bapak Ibu. Nah, ini sederhana sekali, thumbs up. Thumbs up-nya bisa actual thumbs atau pakai zoom thumb juga bisa ya. Thumbs up if you have ever taken an online course. Lihat jempolnya nggak nih Bapak Ibu kalau pernah mengambil online course. Banyak ya sepertinya sekarang ini, especially during the pandemic. Nah, okay. Can I see the thumbs? Dan ya, okay. Alright. Sekarang yang kedua, also thumbs up if you like watching instructional videos or how-to videos on YouTube. YouTube banyak ya, ada how to teach effectively, how to cook like a chef, how to make bombs even. So thumbs up if you like watching those how-to videos. All right. Okay. The last one, still thumbs up if you ever skip some parts as you watch the video. Bapak Ibu sambil nonton, yeah, I can do this already. Skip.
Yeah.
I learned about this. Skip. I don't have this. Right? Okay, sering ya sama ternyata kita ya. Saya juga bosan kalau nonton sampai semua habis ya, kadang kita skip ya. Okay.
Biar cepat.
Biar cepat. So This is very simple example, but I
Yeah.
really think the skipping part or the fast forwarding part is an example of self-concept in me in adult learning principles. Maybe it's too simplified, but that's one example. Yeah. So adult learners are self-directed. We like having the sense of control on our learning experience, and we are responsible for our own learning decisions. We enjoy that part. We need to skip, we need to fast forward to come to the part where it enhance our learning experience. Beda ya dengan anak-anak mungkin Bapak Ibu. It's different with children. When they watch something, they're focused on it from beginning to the end. Maybe they skip some part, but mostly because they're bored or sleepy, not because they're looking for a certain section that can enhance their learning experience. Jadi itu bedanya mungkin ya. Jadi imagine for us, for adults, if there's no option to skip or to fast forward, kalau tidak ada pilihan itu, we have to watch the whole video, we'll probably lose focus. Ya. Jadi kembali lagi, apa artinya untuk fasilitator? What does it mean for facilitator? I think it's important for facilitators to create environment where adults can develop their self-directed learning skills, where there are options for learning. Jadi ada pilihan-pilihannya. Ya. Jadi few practical examples, contoh-contoh saja Bapak Ibu. Di sini maybe based on our needs assessment, instead of having just one presenter like this, we can have breakout sessions, right? Whether in virtual or in-person training, maybe in station 1 atau di breakout room 1, participants who would like to focus on speaking practice, and room 2 or station 2, discussing strategies to improve reading skills. And training station 3 atau room 3, brainstorm ideas and topics for next event maybe, and so on. So giving options for participants. Yeah. Right. And I think young adults, students, will also appreciate having options for their learning experience. Right? For instance, we can use a simple questionnaire maybe to ask students, what topics would you like to focus more on? Or ask their thoughts if they like having more presentation opportunities, maybe having more group discussions, or maybe invite guest speakers to class. And so I think let's sum up the second principle, self-concept. Adults desire self-directed educational experience. Okay, again, before moving on to the next part, just a quick temperature check. Are you still with us? Sleepy? Are we good? Should I slow down? Or questions? Atau lanjut ke prinsipal berikutnya? Okay, we'll continue, yeah? All right. So the next principle is this, orientation to learning. Yeah, so adults learn best when training is problem-oriented rather than content-oriented. So what does this mean? I guess back to YouTube again. A few people here had their thumbs up when I asked about taking online courses or watching instructional videos on YouTube. So again, since this is Jabar Chatter Club, so let's chat. Can we have someone, maybe another person, to unmute and share with us what online course or instructional video that you watched and you liked? Yung tadi yang angkat jempolnya mau berbagi in English, apa nih? Contoh saja salah satu instructional video atau online course yang Bapak Ibu pernah ambil and you really liked.
I think how to make like a food.
How to make, sorry?
Food, for example,
Food.
maybe
Okay.
how to make like tombro, for example. because I didn't know, for example, what the material for making a chombro. So I opened the YouTube and then I'm searching about how to make a chombro like that.
Okay. All right. Quick follow-up question. Why? Ibu Teti, why are you interested in making chombro?
Because I think I use try taste the chombro. I think it is a good taste. So why I can make a chombro? So I think I must see the YouTube to make sure that how to make a chombro.
Okay. And I trust that you're a successful chombro maker by now.
You can try. if you come to Subang.
Thank you for the example, Ibu Teti.
Yeah.
I think this is exactly the kind of knowledge that adult learners are most interested in, right? So naturally, adult learners, we seek information that is useful in our personal lives or in our work environment. And so learning is relevant to our real life issues, our real life problem that can help our lives, lives in a better way. For example, for Ibu Teti, one's interest would be creating chombros. So I think another difference as for children, earlier we talked about how pedagogy emphasizes learning for the sake of learning. For children, it's subject-centered, right? Meaning that the subject determines the sequence according to which unit that should be taught. So I think that's another different. Another example, contoh lain mungkin ya. Bapak Ibu mungkin bayangkan, imagine if you have a session plan, ada RPP ini, for topiknya ambil saja contoh teaching speaking skills, ada RPP-nya, and you have to deliver the content of the session in 5 different schools, in 5 different locations. Mungkin ada sekolah in Jakarta, in Papua, Kalimantan, Semarang, lain-lain. But the requirement is you're not allowed to change anything on the RPP. So it has to be standard. It has to be delivered exactly as it's written on the RPP, right? So that will be very content-oriented. So can you present the session? Yes, I think the RPP is there. But can you present the session in a way that is engaging, meaningful, and relevant for those 5 different participants? Maybe not so much, right? Because in those 5 different places, the situations are different, the background knowledge, the problems are different. So just like Ibu Teti mentioned, the relevance. So again, it's suggested that training is focused on helping participants acquire specific knowledge, specific skills or abilities, rather than delivering generic content. So that's orientation to learning. I think the next question is, gimana caranya? How can we do that? I think here, examples. I think we can adapt and adjust session content, still using the same set of objectives. Objectivenya tetap sama, but we can localize. We can add some specific context. We can add practical examples. So different participants will be able to relate and find the relevance. So I guess all in all, motivation increases when there's an immediate reason to learn. So that's the third principle, sharing, orientation to learning, problem-oriented versus content.
Panada, maybe we have a same with the student for a practical example. I think for adult and for the student, I think it is very important about the practical example. I think for adult and for the student, it is the same. We need more practice, not only the theories, I think. So I think it is the same, same for a student and for adult.
Yeah, totally agree, Ibu Teti. especially if we're talking students as in teenagers, young adults, SMP, SMA students, it's halfway, I'd say, right? We apply pedagogical strategies, but also adult learning principles. So I think that's the relevance. When we're talking adults, it's not only adults like us, but also teenagers even or young adults level. So yeah, I think there's definitely that similarity. Okay. Right. I think we can move to the next part. If there's no question. All right. Yeah, I think it's time to ask the audience again, maybe just to practice speaking. If anyone can unmute and share with us, when you see this picture, what comes to your mind when you see this picture? How would you describe this? Ibu silakan, Bu, kalau yang mau sekalian practice, please, bisa di-unmute.
Okay, Bapak Ibu, maybe do you want to share your experience based on the pictures? Okay.
Yeah, what comes to your mind when you see this picture? How would you describe this picture?
Juliana?
Please, anyone?
May I answer?
Hi.
Thank you. I think for the first one is one-way interaction, because the arrow is from the red person to the blue one. And the second one is dual interaction. I mean bidirectional, because the arrow is in two-way, and also from the blue to the blue, peer to peer. Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like that.
Yes, thank you. Great, you sum it up very well. So one-way direction, and also seems like learning from others, using experience, learning from peers as well. Great. Ibu Dini, maybe, so raise your hand, please.
Thank you, Pak Ananda. Wait. Okay. Can you hear my voice?
Yes, quite clear, Bu Dini.
Yes, Miss. Hello, Pak Ananda.
Yes, we can hear you. Yeah, we can hear you, Ibu.
Okay. Okay, Pak Ananda, I will try to answer your question. So maybe it's quite interesting if we talk about Andragogy education. In my opinion, if we see the picture in pedagogy, for example, like in your picture, so we see that the red one, it's only give or convey the knowledge maybe to the students. So it's looked like the one-way communication. And if we see the andragogy, we can see that I agree with the Miss Miss Hana before. So maybe the communication is two-way. So not the coach maybe, or the facilitator, not only give or convey something, but maybe the facilitator also gaining something from the audience, from the adults, for example, like that, Pak Ananda.
Great. Yes. Thank you, Udini.
Yeah, because maybe the position is the same, so we can do brainstorming to the audience or to adults like that.
Yep. Great. Thank you very much. I think that's a perfect explanation. All right,
Thank you, Pak.
Yeah, definitely agrees. One-way direction. If we see the arrows as knowledge, so think for, especially when we're dealing with adults, the learning is easier when we can build on existing knowledge, right? So it's not just one-way arrow, one-way direction of the teacher, the instructor providing all the knowledge and information, but also utilizing the peers or the participants that involve in our learning experience. So, yes, Asep?
I think I have an opinion, sir. I think interesting to see the pictures. There are two kind of different pictures here. The first one is pedagogy, and the second one is andragogy. I agree with the previous speakers that pedagogy is only one way, and then the andragogy is not only one way, but also they have equal ways to give input among another. And then I think in pedagogy there is a relationship with Brunner theory and Vygotsky theory, because as a child, so they have need guidance from the adult. For example, they have pre-sensory, and then they have concrete sensory, and then they have sensory learning, and then their learning should be manipulated and then should be guided by the adults. And then the adults should be a guide for the students in the blue ones. The adults should be superior and then should know everything about what he will teach to the person in blue. And then the second one is andragogy. Andragogy, I think it is kind of such as a sharing, because experience does not only come from the person itself, himself or herself, but also from other person or other people. So it is a kind of mutual communication, and then it is a kind of mutual learning, I think. So andragogy is, of course, rather different to pedagogy. But I also have a critic in pedagogy, because we call the teaching method is pedagogy, not only for the students of elementary school and then for the students of kindergarten, but also for the students of junior high school, senior high school, vocational high school, and maybe the graduate students. So I think there should be andragogy aspect in pedagogy, in pedagogical teaching in university and senior high school and vocational high school. I think that's my opinion, sir. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much, Asep, Dhani. I think it's very comprehensive explanation from your opinion. I couldn't agree more. Yeah, definitely. I think pedagogy, it requires, it's not only that it's the characteristic, but it requires more teacher-centered instruction, with the teacher or instruction being the center of knowledge, as stated there in the picture, and in charge of their learning. Whereas, like you mentioned as well, Andragogy, the more diverse the experience that we have in the room, the more resources that we can bring to the learning experience, right? And I believe adults also need to feel that their experience are respected and being utilized in certain training sessions or workshop or any learning experience. Right. Thank you very much for sharing. Well, allow me to share a quick story. Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, one of our main roles as Peace Corps staffs like Ibu Helena or Pa Abdul Rozak, one of our main roles is to design and deliver trainings for American volunteers. Yeah, and in my experience, especially in the early days of my career working for Peace Corps, facilitating trainees to 50, 60, 70 Americans can be quite intimidating. Yeah, I mean, they're native speakers of English. But then I realized that back to the concept of practical application in Andragogy, participants' prior experience should provide the basis for many of our learning activities, right? We all have something to contribute in the learning process. And the more experience we have in the room, that shouldn't be intimidating, but the more resources that we can tap in and benefit from, the more arrows there in the pictures that can be linked from different participants. So things is just real quick. So how we provide those opportunities to utilize participants' prior experience, lots of ways, discussions, simulations, problem-solving activities, group discussions, things like that. That can gauge also the different experience that we have in our training session. All right. Questions or comments on experience before we move on to the next part?
Okay, what about the past experience, Pak Anda? Maybe I think scenario for the program will be related with the past experience. For example, maybe for the first training, you give me some question. What about the training? What about the program? And then what the benefit the program? I think for all that you will go to the next program based on your experience or your answer with the participant, and then make the programs different from the first program. I think so. It is very important for us to making a survey for the participant, and then make a change the program for the next seminar or workshop, for example. I think you was done like that, and it is very important for us as an adult when we will make some workshop or maybe a training for the other teacher. So I think it is good making a survey. Yeah, it is based on to go to the next program. I think it is Pananda.
Yeah, great point. Thank you, Ibu Teti. Agree. I mean, the experience here, I believe, refer to both. Yeah, the experience from the participants in our learning session, just like what Pa Asep just shared, Ibu Ana and Ibu Teti. Those are the experience that we have in the room, but also experience from the previous training sessions. As you mentioned, very important to have the information on previous training and what can we improve for the next training. Needs assessment, questionnaire, surveys. And I'm really happy also, I think Ibu Helena had shared that you also have the needs assessment distributed, right, to Jabar teacher participants, so we can have more targeted, more relevant, more meaningful sessions maybe in the future. We can benefit from the learners. Yes, thank you very much. Okay, so
maybe Pak Abur.
Oh, Pak Abur, please.
He has a lot of experience about making.
Yeah, just a little, just a little. So, when the pedagogic, when I saw the picture there, that means one way, one way. There is no two-way interaction between teacher and student. But the other one is Andragogy. They can make interaction each other between teacher and student, and also student between student and student. So, yeah, totally different, but depend with my experience, better I will choose Andragogy. Even both is usable, depend with the situation we will use. Maybe only that my experience, yeah. Bu Teti, Pak Ananda.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, thank you so much, Babur. I really miss, hearing your, just speech or your sharing. I really do. I mean, in-service training, mid-service training, almost all of Peace Corps training events, we always have your support and your presence. So, yeah, thank you for that. All right, I think we...
Mr. Ananda, there is a question in the chat box. Can you give an example of the concrete? Would you like to give me the concrete example of learners use his life experience as a foundation?
Sorry, I'm not able to see the chat box. Okay, here. Would you give me the concrete example of learner use life experience?
Yes, from Miss Juliana.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yes, here, what I mean by that, again, contrasting between pedagogy and andragogy, with the teacher or instructor being in the center of the knowledge. It's pretty challenging, it's pretty difficult to utilize the life experience from students, right? Especially when we're talking about children. Okay, they still have limited life experience. They might know certain theories, but life experience is a whole different story. Whereas for adults, life experience really can be the driving force of a training session or a workshop, right? We can have a set of theories, we can have a set of RPP or session plans, but what makes the sessions meaningful, what makes the session engaging are the life experience of the participants, right? You can imagine if, again, the example of using one RPP for 5 different audience, for 5 different locations. Yes, the content will be similar, but the problem, the relevance, the life experience are different, and they should be different, and we should also focus on the diversity of the life experience. So yeah, I hope that answer your question. Concrete example, I think just giving opportunities for the audience, for the participants to express, to share their life experience on the content. I guess that's the important role of the facilitators, to give those opportunities.
Yes, I will. I feel the method you said, like I would say that the important things for Peace Corps is give me a chance to stand up and speak in front of the audience. I don't care about it. It is wrong or it is bad. I want to speak like that, and it is very good, especially for me. So I think it is a good method, Ananda, from Peace Corps.
Yeah, thank you. Glad that you find it beneficial, Ibu. Okay. All right. I think just for the interest of time, again, thank you so much for all the sharing. I think we still have one more, but before that, can I ask a quick question? Maybe another audience in the room. Could you maybe unmute? I'm sorry, I cannot really access the chat box. So it's great if you can unmute and share with us. What's your reason? What's your motivation to join Jabar Teacher Chatter Club? Anyone maybe? It's all right. Just like Ibu Teti said, use English or Bahasa Indonesia. This is definitely an opportunity to practice.
Yes.
Can I, Mr. Ananda?
Yes, please.
Yeah, of course.
okay. I love to join this program because I want to practice my English. I'm not English teacher, but since I was in 4th grade, my mother sent me to English course, and I don't to lose it because English is part of culture. If we never practice it, we will lose it. Thank you.
Great. Yes, thank you. Thank you. That's a very good reason for joining this. You want to practice using your English. I hope you do have the opportunity to practice. Okay. Anyone else?
I want to try Mr. Ananda Roman.
Meti, please.
Okay. Maybe my motivation to join with JTC the same with Miss Helena. I want to study how to speak in English and understand listening and another everything about English because now my English is too bad. So I'm very happy when Peace Corps mengirimkan volunteer to my school so I can study more. And I'm sorry when JTC hold saya jarang bergabung, and I hope in the next time I can join so I can more study. Maybe that's my reason and my motivation. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Meti. And your English is very good. Actually, you can convey message really clearly. So yeah, it's a learning process. So it's great. Yeah, what you shared. I mean, those are intrinsic motivation, right? You're not here because you're getting paid. Or maybe you're not getting paid, right? You're not here because you get certificates, right? You're not here because of credits or anything like that. You're here because you want to learn, you want to improve your language skills. So yeah, I think it's related with the last principle, intrinsic motivation, right? So adults rely on internal or intrinsic motivation to prompt learning. It's like Ibu Meti as well. That's your intrinsic motivation to learn. And so, yeah, I think we can agree, this is, I think, the most straightforward principle. We can agree that intrinsic incentives are much more powerful than extrinsic ones, right? We as adults, we learn best when motivation comes from inside, when motivation comes from within, rather than relying on external motivations such as, prices or certificates. Well, certificates are important, but intrinsic motivation is what's the driving force of it. Right? On the other hand, we're talking about children, teenagers. They're mostly motivated by extrinsic factors, right? Getting good grades or other perks that they can get, or avoiding consequences of failure. But I really believe that it's one of the main goals of educators to be able to help create and increase intrinsic motivation from all of our learners. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's the fifth or the last principles that I'm sharing. Intrinsic motivations. Adults rely on internal motivation to prompt learning. All right. So yeah, I think that's all that I can share this evening. And just to recap the principles, I think first we share about need to know. Adults need to know the reason they're being asked to learn. What's in it for me? Why am I here to learn? What am I learning? The experience, right? Learning is easier when we can build on the existing knowledge from the participants or from previous background experience. Self-concept. We as adults, we desire self-directed educational experience, that we have options. We have responsibility of our own learning. Orientation to learning. We learn best when the training is problem-oriented rather than content oriented. Remember the standard RPP example. And the last one that we just talked about, intrinsic motivation. All right. I don't know if we have time for a reflection, but I'd rather use the time for maybe question and answers, or maybe if anyone would like to practice speaking some more. So just checking here. Yeah, again, back to our session objectives. Yeah, so we did talk about main differences, right? About andragogy and pedagogy. We identified key aspects of adult learning principles, and we hopefully you can identify after the sessions which aspects of adult learning principles that are applicable, that you can implement in your own context. All right. Thank you. All in all, I hope, again, understanding this short sessions, adult learning principles, can help you design training or sessions that can get better results. Mohon maaf mungkin jika ada kekurangan dalam penyampaian materi. I think that's all that I can convey this evening. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Ananda. Pak Asep, Dhani, maybe
Okay.
some participants have a question.
Yes, please. Okay. I think now it's 8:57, so it is 3 minutes more to 9 o'clock p.m. So right now we have already listened to the presentation that Mr. Ananda Roman has already delivered today. It is about adult learning principles, and then I have already also resumed the summary of the presentation of Mr. Ananda Roman. There are several things that I can give. The first one is need to know. So adults require a reason for learning. So it relates to the purpose that meets the needs, and then need assessment practice with learning objectives. And then the second one is self-concept. Adult desire self-directed education experiences, and then orientation to learning, problem-oriented as content versus content-oriented. And then there is also experience. Learning is easier when we can build on existing knowledge. And then there are several discussion today that we have already got. The first one is one of the participants said that practice English is very important. So if we never practice our knowledge on language will be lost, just like that. And then Mr. Ananda Roman also said that it is about intrinsic motivation, when one of the participants said that I'd like to study English in this community. So hopefully that this knowledge based on the presentation that has already given is beneficial, not only for us but also for other people. And thank you very much for Mr. Roman for your presentation from Peace Corp. Peace Corp is one of the independent organization which will always give the benefit of English speaking, English literacy, English writing to the students and the school in West Java province in special. And then the second one, thank you very much, Ms. Teti, as the inspector of SMK in KCD IV. And then Mr. Abur, we also would like thank you very much for your coming today. And then other Peace Corps.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Abur. Mr. Abur is always active and always attend the English language activities. And then Ms. Vivin also from Peace Corps. Thank you very much for your coming. We have 35 to 39 participants from all over West Java. West Java province. So thank you very much. So hopefully that it can increase the competency of English. Thank you very much, Miss Dhani and then Miss Teacher Andri, for this activity, and hopefully that this knowledge will be used in your own institution in each region. Thank you very much for your coming today. And right now we go to the host, please, Miss Meti. The time is yours.
Asep, but before we close the session, please, for the participants, or open the video because we will take some pictures.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah.
Please open the video because we are going to have the photograph together. We'll take the photographs.
Yeah, we'll take a picture, Pak Dhani, Pak Asep.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Copy your style, Pak Abul.
Thumbs up for everyone in school.
We will
Join
copy
with us. Thumbs up all.
We will copy the Pak Abul.
Yeah. Ananda, thank you very much. Yeah.
It's my pleasure, Pak Abul. Thank you for the opportunity.
Anyway, the bulletin. When I saw the bulletin, wow, a lot of pictures of me and Bu Teti there. Wow. Thank you, everyone. Staff Peace Corps. Yeah, thank you very much, all of you.
Yeah.
Maybe one day, if there is a chance to receive some school, I think better if we choose the teacher in here who always follow this program. So maybe Pak Ananda have an indicator, yeah. This is good teacher. So I will choose some of school in here like Pak Asep Dhani, who always join with us, yeah, from SMK Nurussalam, Kabupaten Tasikmalaya. So just give Peace Corps volunteer one day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Promotion.
Yeah, of course. Everyone who joined with us in here, so just give like a reward, yeah, like a reward, Pak Nanda. Yeah, just asking permission if there is a chance to open for private school, not only public school in West Java.
Right. Yes.
Thank you, all of you.
Thank you for your support.
Lena, Bu Pipin, yeah.
Bu Pipin, hi. How are you?
Hello, Teti. I'm well. Thank you.
I'm fine.
It's nice to see you.
Yeah.
Nice to see you too, Pak Asep.
Yeah. Ini Surabaya anyway. Musim apa nih? Musim udan apa Anda? Ini campuran nih Selondo Jawa. Thank you very much, Pak Asep.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Abul.
Keep healthy all, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Pak Abul. Thank you. Abdul, hi, Pak Abdul. Why?
Where is Pak Abdul?
Itu Pak Abdul. Why you close your video, Pak Abdul?
Ya, maaf Bu. Malam pagi ini.
Kayaknya ngantuk deh Pak Abdul tuh.
Okay, then I should leave ya. Bye bye.
Okay.
Burung cendrawasih from Irian Ngagupai. Terima kasih, sekian, bye bye.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Asep dari Gandani, who has already guided this program. It's very interesting program, and of course to all presenters, I think this topic very beneficial for all. Finally, I would like to end the program. Let us say Hamdalah together. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. I'm sorry. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.